Hello. Hopefully you can hear me and the video's working and the stream's actually going, and let's double check all that stuff because that's all that important stuff to make sure it's going. But I hope that you all had a fantastic weekend and are looking forward to an awesome, productive week of practicing. It does look like we are alive and things are going well, so welcome to this week's live Monday music motivation. This one's going to be really extra special, and I'm really super excited because I'm going to be sharing some new things and different things that from what I've ever shared before, and I'm going to try to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit and sort of reveal some of the real underlying things that I think a lot of us are missing in our practice, and kind of the things that are going to take you from wherever you are to that next level in your clarinet journey, because they're the most important things that make the biggest difference. And it's not what we think. I think we've all been told to practice and practice more and do the hard work and put in the practice, and then we'll get where we want to go. And to some extent that's true. Like, yes, we absolutely need to practice. Nobody becomes a great clarinetist or musician by not practicing. But if you stop and think about it, is just practicing the only way to get there? Like, does everybody who practices their 10,000 hours or whatever that study was, do they all become great musicians? Or is it possible to be putting in your hours of practice and not actually getting good benefit out of them? I have some really awesome stories about this with some great professional players. So one of my favorite ones was when I was at a summer festival studying with Romain Guillot, who's like an international soloist, like friends with Martin Frost, really great player. And he said that he hardly even practices at all anymore. Most of his time practicing is just sort of making sure reeds are working, because he already knows how the music goes and knows how to play the clarinet. So he barely practices at all. Another great example is Jason Schaefer, who's the principal clarinetist of the Colorado Symphony. Awesome, fantastic player. He says that he basically never practices more than 2 hours a day, and he has a whole professional symphony schedule of music that he's constantly working on and preparing. And you can even see sort of the other end of things with my former teacher, Dr. Jeremy Reynolds, who practices a ton and is also a fantastic, awesome player. So the amount of practice doesn't matter quite so much, because you have people who practice very little, awesome players. You have people who are practicing a lot, awesome players. And Dr. Reynolds does also take breaks from practicing too. Taking breaks is fantastic, but when he's sort of in the mode of preparing for a performance, he really puts in a lot of work, and that's great. He sounds great. And it's important, and the reason why I bring this up is that you can have all of those options of a lot of practice, less practice. There is still always some amount of practice, but the amount of practice doesn't directly correlate to the level of playing, because you have these top level players with all different amounts of practice times. And I don't think I can disclose the how little I practice, or the aforementioned Dr. Reynolds will be like sending me texts and telling me to go practice. But we can play at a very high level with very little practice. And conversely, we can practice a ton and not get to a very high level of playing. I don't know if you've ever experienced this or you can relate to anybody in particular, but I remember some students and fellow students in high school who said that they were practicing a ton at least, but they were never like the top players in the group, even though they were putting in a lot of work. So it's just an important reminder that the amount you're practicing and the amount of work you're putting in doesn't directly correlate to the results you're going to get. So I want to sort of peel back the layers and uncover what does, and tell you that it's not just going and practicing. There's a little more to it that I want to share. I also want to share that this sort of end game of practice is different from the end goal of playing. I think we all have a pretty similar end goal of playing, where we want to improve, we want to be able to play our instrument well, we want to be able to make the music that we want to make. I think we all have a pretty similar end goal. that may look different. For some people, it may be, I want to play in a professional symphony, or I want to be an international soloist and play concertos. Or it could be, I want to learn this one tune that I fell in love with and just really am dying to be able to play it on the clarinet. So whatever level or whatever that end goal is, doesn't matter so much. And I think we all have a very similar end goal of there's something we want to play, there's some music we want to make, and that's what we're working towards. What I'm talking about here, this end game of practice, is different. And the end game of practice is actually the same no matter what level your end goal is at. And what I think that end game of practice is being able to actually teach yourself and have a really good understanding of your playing so that you can continuously be moving forward with every repetition. This is kind of the opposite of the problem that we encounter where we're practicing, but we feel like we're kind of stagnating. And it's like those people I mentioned who can practice a lot, but not really make it very far and not make much progress in their playing because they're practicing in the wrong way, practicing in the wrong direction, and they haven't started to develop sort of that end game that leads to frustration-free practice and what I call mindful music making, where you can actually play something, assess it as if you're your own teacher, figure out what you need to improve, and then make those improvements and do that so that you can progress and move forward. So what does it take to sort of get to this end game, and what do we need to be our own teachers and to be able to continuously move forward with every repetition and know that our practice is actually paying off? Well, it takes being a teacher. And this is kind of the thing that I wanted to sort of peel back the layers for all of you. I feel like my personal clarinet playing really improved the greatest when I started teaching. And this isn't to say that everybody who's watching this needs to go start teaching clarinet or teaching music if you want to be able to improve yourself. But no matter what level your playing is at, and again, what level that end goal of playing is for you, you're going to need to figure out how to teach it so that you can teach it to yourself. And I think so many of us keep thinking like, oh, I just need to like take more lessons. I need more practice time. I need to find the right videos on YouTube that are going to help me with whatever it is that I'm working on. But those options aren't going to get you where you truly need to be. Those options are great. I have over 500 videos on my YouTube channel now, so you can find tons of information there to help move you forward. But it might not be exactly the right information that you need or the right exact information that you're looking for. You could take lessons, and maybe you've experienced this before where you've had a teacher that sort of maybe you don't like gel with totally, maybe even like personality wise you get along with them really well and you like working with them a lot, but whenever they explain something and tell you to do something, you're kind of left thinking, I'm not 100% sure I know what you mean. Like, okay, I guess I'll try that. Like, I had teachers who would just say like, do long tones, practice with the metronome, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, I'll do that, but I never really understood why I was doing it. And because I didn't know why I was doing it, then I didn't know how to do it the most effectively. And I was kind of doing it and kind of going through the motions, but I wasn't really getting anywhere with it because I didn't know that sort of how and why layer to it. So there's all those different things that you can do, and you probably have some experience trying to do. But I think the real solution and the real answer is for you to understand well enough so that you can teach yourself, because nobody's going to be able to communicate more clearly and more effectively to you than yourself. So what does it take then to actually know those things? Is to really understand music and understand clarinet. And that's kind of what I think my specialty is taking all of the complexities of playing and sort of narrowing it down, boiling it down into a really manageable and really easy to understand formula. And I actually have a much more in-depth training on that you can check out at quickstartclarinet.com/fundamentals. It's a completely free training. You don't even have to put in your email address. And it's about 30 minutes where I go through and explain like, what are those fundamentals? I call them the 5 frustration-free fundamentals, because they're the 5 things that you really need to be clear on understanding how it works, and be clear on being able to sort of teach those things to yourself and teach those things to your clarinet playing part of your brain, or whatever instrument you play, so that you can really develop those and really feel confident and in control with those 5 things. And I really think, again, no matter where your end goal is, whether it's just, I just want to be able to play like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and be able to play that effectively and sound nice on the instrument, or if your end goal is to be able to be an international soloist playing concerti with major orchestras, same 5 fundamentals. So go to quickstartclarinet.com/fundamentals to actually learn those things, so that you can start becoming your best teacher and getting the motivation to get going in that direction. And speaking of motivation, this wouldn't be a live Monday Music Motivation without filling out our practice template. The practice template is something we do every week here on the Monday Music Motivations to sort of reflect and see where you're at in your journey, set your goals for what you want to accomplish this week, and then make your plan for when you're actually going to do it. And I never thought of this, but that template is actually you being your own best teacher, because it's not me saying, this is what you need to accomplish this week, this is when you should do it. It's you figuring it out for yourself, reflecting on what feels right to you, and reflecting on your goals. And mine for this week is kind of a fun one. You can see that. And you can also find the link in the description to download this template. But the part I'm excited about is that I'm taking a week off from playing this week. I did a concerto last week, had tons of performances at the start of this year, and everything went really, really, really well. And I'm sort of excited to see what the next chapter is going to be as we sort of move forward in the year. Going to have still a little goal to be sort of looking for some inspiration and sort of listening to some great clarinet playing and listening to some great music to sort of get some ideas of where I want to go next. But the most important thing is that I'm going to take a week off. I will get back to it next week, but now I don't have any pressure of, oh, I really should be practicing, but I don't feel like it, because I've deliberately decided to do that. And my teacher in my head is saying that that's the best thing for me to do right now. So I hope that this has been interesting and helpful, and sort of, again, peeled back the curtain a little bit so you have a greater understanding of like really what is the end game of practicing? What are we trying to do? And that's to understand things well enough that we can be our own best teachers. And again, look for that link in the description, quickstartclarinet.com/fundamentals, so you can learn those 5 fundamentals to really take your clarinet playing and musicianship to the next level, so you can reach that end game, so then you can use that great practicing to move towards whatever your end goal is. And thank you so much for watching and being here for the live Monday Music Motivation. I really appreciate all of you who watch this live and leave comments and everything. I love getting to interact with you all. And I will see you next week on the next live Monday Music Motivation. Have a great week. Have a fantastic week of practicing, and get those fundamentals down so that you can be your own best teacher.